Right, let's meet the complaining cow then. Try and make it 5?
Oh, definitely.
0500 909 693. All the ladies, as Beyonce might say, 0500 909 693. Come and play Phil's Fives tonight in 20 minutes' time. Take on Rob, who is our champ. Right, let's meet the complaining cow then. Hello. I feel bad calling you that, but that's the name of your blog, Helen Dewdney.
It is. I am absolutely fine with being called the complaining cow. That's what it is.
How did you become a complaining cow?
Born like it, I think.
You've always been a bit of a whinger, have you?
Yeah, I think more of complaining rather than whinging.
Oh, okay.
I think
What's the difference? Tell me the difference.
Well, I think whinging is saying that the weather isn't it really cold.
Right.
And I think complaining for me is about doing something about it. So if it's the weather, it's going to go and put a warmer coat on. But I mean, for me, complaining is about doing something effectively and affecting change. So for me, if I get a bad meal and I've paid for it, then I think that's wrong. And I'm not going to go home and just say that was a really bad meal. I'm never going to go back to that restaurant again. I get my money back for that meal. I've paid for it, and it broke the law by not providing me services of a satisfactory quality. And I think that's effective. And also that restaurant have learnt that, that they provided bad service. And that it's a win-win situation because they will then get me back as a customer and I will tell other people that actually they did something wrong, but, they dealt with the complaint well.
OK, so listen, as you've talked about food, let's go down that road because I used to be a waiter in a restaurant, right? So my manageress, the second one that I worked for anyway, was most unsympathetic to professional complainers. She reckoned she could spot people that were only after a free round of coffees, right? So she said one of the keys from the customer's point of view was they had to complain early. If it was the meal they didn't like or whatever it was, they had to give the restaurant a chance to put it right.
Yeah, I think that's fair. No, I think that's absolutely fair. I've certainly done that. And also, I think there is a point when it's come to a meal if you're in company, and I think some people would feel very embarrassed about complaining in front of their mother's 80th birthday party or whatever. So I think there's a time and a place, but certainly if I'm having a bad meal and you've had your start or whatever and it was poor, then yes, you should complain about it at the time. And also the proof of the pudding is there.
So what about, let's say, because I had a situation once, right? Let me think now. I haven't named the restaurant, so that's fine. I had a situation where I said to the manageress, the lady on 14's complained about the fish. And I had she'd sent it back, so I had the meal in my hand. And the manageress said to me, OK, well, let's go into the kitchen. So we went into the kitchen and the manageress herself got a fork, put it into the middle of the fish and ate it. And she said, there's nothing wrong with that. Which lady is it? So I, trying to be subtle, right, we went back out into the restaurant and I just subtly kind of pointed my shoulder towards table 14, right? And the manageress said in a very loud voice, what does she expect? She's got no teeth. So she then did not do anything about that complaint. She said she dealt with it, but she went to the table and I listened to her and she said, I'm very sorry. I've tasted it. In my opinion, nothing wrong with that fish. I'm not going to do anything about this. If you want to order something else, you can, but you'll have to pay for a second meal.
Well, what's going to happen there? She loses that customer. She loses you. You're not going to go back. How many people are you going to tell who won't go there? How many people are the people on that table going to tell?
I've told nobody until now. Now I've told the whole country.
You haven't named the restaurant, have you? But if you did, or if you did it on Twitter, how many customers is that going to lose for the price of actually just replacing that meal?
But you see, from her point of view, from the manageress's point of view, what she's trying to ward off is people who complain where, in her view, there was a needless complaint, and she thinks that they're looking for a freebie.
I think it is very difficult. I mean, certainly people say to me, "Oh, you're feeding into the compensation culture," and I don't think that's right. But although there are some people who think, "Oh, I'm going to try this and I'm going to try that on," and I'd certainly steer away from that. I think it has to be genuine, and I think part of that is knowing your legal rights and quoting it and providing evidence. Certainly, if you've had clothes ruined in your washing machine or whatever, I'd advise that you send photos of that. So you're always sending proof. And I think where a meal, you can still take, everyone's got their phones now, you've got cameras, you can take the photo of that. You can, if it's a restaurant chain, you can go above the manager, you can go to the area manager, the managing director. The fact that she put her fork into the fish into the restaurant, it doesn't mean to say that the fish on the other woman's table is the same, I think it is a hard one because there are people who are trying to catch people out. But I think on the whole, it's about you just have to be sensible and fair, really. And I think probably people can pick out the people who are just trying for a freebie. But without being actually there, then I couldn't tell you without seeing that meal whether that was a fair complaint or not.
No, so I had a very interesting situation myself over the summer. And I was at a hotel and we'd stayed there and everything had been great with the stay. But on the last day, we decided to have lunch there and there was a catalogue of errors. And in the end, I lost my temper when I was with the restaurant manager and said, look, I'm not being funny with you. It's been this, it's been this, it's been this, it's been this. Right. And he said, right, well, I can't charge you for any of this. And it kind of shocked me a bit, as a response. And I said, but I've not come to you looking for a freebie. And
he's not charged you for any of that meal?
Any of the lunch at all, any of it. Moral of that story, I suppose, is if you're a genuine complainer, which I was on that day, that at least people will take you seriously if they believe the validity of your complaint. Let me speak to Laura, who's in Chippenham, just before the news. Hi, Laura.
Yeah, hello, Phil.
You can hear me, can't you?
Yes, I can, loud
I thought I was
and clear.
going mad then. Go on, what have you've had a success?
I did, yes, and this is a real feather in my cap. I bought a netbook about 2.5 years ago, and after about 14, 15 months, it just completely gave up the ghost, and I was told it needed a complete new hard drive and everything else. It's an expensive, really expensive repair bill, and I thought, no, I'm sorry, not after 14 months, I'm not paying out for this, and it shouldn't lose its brain after this length of time. So by the time I got home, having got nowhere with the place I bought it from or the manufacturers, I was steaming. So I found out the name of the CEO, I found out the head office address, I packaged it up, sent it off to Taiwan with a suitable letter pointing out what was said in their mission statement about products of value, blah, 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 and telling them basically, well, this is not of value, it's rubbish and you can have it back. 3 months later, it came back fully restored and it's still going strong.
Wow. So you went straight to the CEO in Taiwan?
I did. I paid the export duty, whatever it was.
How confident were you? When you bundled it all up, how confident were you that it was ever going to get there?
I was confident it would get there. I wasn't that confident that anything would happen, but I was just so mad, Phil, because it had had little niggles go wrong with it from the day that I bought it, and then to be told that it needed a complete new hard drive, which is virtually the main working component of the damn thing, it was just the last straw. And I just thought, no, I'm not accepting this and I'm not going to pay out for it. I didn't even get any kind of sort of sympathetic noises from either the place I bought it from or the manufacturers. They were the case, oh, well, sorry, it's gone wrong, this is repairable, you're going to have to pay it or dump it. And I thought, I ain't dumping it and I'm not paying it, but I know who's going to get it back. So that's what I did. Sent it right back to the top man with a suitable letter.
Well done, Laura. Congratulations. That's a great result. Tell me this, right, because this is amusing me now in my own mind. The moment when you posted it, did you have that lovely moment where you're in the post office and they say to you, anything of value? And you say, yeah. And they say, what's the value? And you say, $2,000.
Yeah, they did this because I had to fill out an export form for it at the post office, and she did say, "What's the value of this?" I said, "Well, it depends on your point of view, love. To me, it's scrap. To somebody else, it's worth a couple of £100." So in the end, I think we settled on £100, and I paid the extra for it. But there was no way I was going to pay for the repair, Phil.
Is that your first and only result, or are you quite a good complainer?
No, I'll complain about anything and everything. I once sued Virgin Mobile and won.
Oh, really?
I had pay and go phones for the kids, and they wanted to put them onto a good deal at the time, and they completely cocked it up from start to finish. And I tried to cancel the direct debit payment within 24 hours of actually setting it up, which you're perfectly entitled and legally can do. But Virgin Mobile were having absolutely none of it. They said I had to wait till so many payment periods had gone past before I could cancel it. Anyway, to cut a long story short, they wouldn't back down, neither would I. I wrote to them and threatened them and said, look, you either do this, do that, or do the other, or I will issue a summons. They just called my bluff, so I issued a summons. We went to court. I won, they lost.
Wow, don't mess with Laura in Chippenham. Thanks for your call.
Thanks, Phil.
Cheers, take care. 0500 909 693. If you want to call either for some help from Helen Dewdney, who I think is back, our complaining cow. Yeah, she's back. And or you can let us know the results you've had on 0500 909 693 or 85058. Helen Dewdney, who writes the Complaining Cow blog, she knows what she's doing when it comes to complaining. She's had a lot of success and she's here to help. And Tan's on the phone in Birmingham. Hi, Tan.
Hi, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. What are you thinking?
I was thinking, sorry, hi Helen as well.
Hiya.
Hi. Totally appreciate everything that you're saying. I work in hospitality on the other end of it. So in terms of the guests when they're coming in, we're very confident. 10 out of 10 customers coming in to ensure that they're having a nice time. And the way we look at it from our side of it is we know that our job is to be humble. And we go out there and we make sure that we listen to every customer, make sure that they have a nice time. And we as a team, we do fully express to our team to ensure that they understand that customers are coming out to have a nice time and make sure they have a nice time. Now, in terms of people aren't cut from the same cloth. Everyone's very different. For instance, what you're doing, you're trying to educate people, but sometimes it can be a little bit of a mistake because some people don't know how to use that information in the correct manner. For instance, they'll often find that they'll complain using the same method that you're saying to waiting staff in a very rude way, almost being very, very negative and obtrusive to these people. So straight away, you're making them feel awkward. You're making them feel like this person's a moaner, this person's complaining. There's manners in which you should do it. If you write in a complaint or you speak to a manager and they don't address something for you, if you write it in to a restaurant and you explain your scenario, 9 times out of 10, every restaurant, just like every other service out there, will correct what they do because the customer is what makes them work.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
if you're encouraging people to go out and put it on, say, social media, what you don't realize, the detriment it can have to a lot of different people.
So what's interesting is that you almost turn backing up there. What some of our more successful complainers have said is that a targeted letter seems to get the best response, Helen.
yeah, absolutely. And I take on board what is being said. And one of my tips is very much be polite. If you're going to be rude to people, you don't deserve to have your complaint heard. It's as simple as that. I thoroughly agree. If you're going to be aggressive with people, I don't think your complaint should be heard.
Sometimes you do lose you. I mean, I'll admit to it, I've lost my rag. And it's normally when you're not getting anywhere with the first line. And what happens is you have to be astute enough to realise that this is the first person they've put up to speak to you. So I had it in a hotel, for example, where the first person was head of guest something, just clearly was out of a depth, wasn't the right person. And when the deputy director of guest relations came along, he got it.
Yeah. And I think, that's another thing that I say is that I personally get rattled very easily. And so I tend not to do things over the phone or talk to customer services on the phone because I get angry very quickly and it's not their fault. It's very much often it's not their fault. It's just a procedural and you might forget something. But that's why I tend to put things in writing so that you can be clear, you can be polite, concise, and give a detailed record of what happened.
And is there a time frame for this, Helen? I mean, let's say that you've had something quite bad. Let's say, I don't know whether it's involved maybe a doctor, for example, and you want to complain, but it's taken you a while to get better. Is there a time frame where it's acceptable to still write that letter?
Yes, certainly. I think, if you wanted to take court action, I believe it's 3 years. I might be wrong on that, but certainly I have complained about the care that my father received in hospital a couple of years ago, and he was very ill, and I wrote to the hospital after he died, talking about his care, and this is where I think it is very important to do a complaint, to do it effectively. I wrote a long log of the issues, and what people say quite often is actually all they want is an apology. We got an apology, but also in conclusion, they also said that they would share the complaint with the ward, they would review how pain control was managed, including training, they'd review documentation, they'd ensure the procedure of how to escalate a matter, how to inform relatives if a patient falls. Now, that was amongst other things. So for me, I hope that those measures will be put in place so that other families don't have to go what we go through. Now, that was obviously written a couple of months afterwards.
Right.
So, yes, and also there are, for if you have a faulty television, for example, you've got 6 months to complain about that. The onus is on the company to prove that the fault wasn't there, if you like, and after 6 months,
that's where the burden of proof is. Let's quickly sneak Peter in Birkenhead. Hi, Peter.
Hi.
What happened?
My sister done a favour for my brother and bought some laptops for my nieces, and they come with internet access. So it was a 24-month contract she signed up for.
Yeah.
At the end of the 24 months, she went and checked her bank a couple of months later, and she was still being charged for the internet. So we rang up the company, and I think the bill had come to £360. And they were like, well, look, at the end of the contract, you're meant to write to us and let us know you want to cancel it. So she was getting nowhere with it. So I said, look, can I have a go? We were speaking on the phone, and, they were still saying nothing. So I got, as you said, you do get a bit annoyed. So I got annoyed and threatened to go down to the local shop with a bailiff and take goods to the value. And straight away he passed me on to somebody else, and we got the full refund.
Oh, okay. So the tough guy tactics work. Thank you, Peter. Just before we run out of time, Helen, a website people might find useful, courtesy of Mark Sandler, who's tweeted me. He says it's got the names and emails of company CEOs, so you can send complaints to targeted people. It's ceoemail.com. So I don't know if you've used that, Helen.
The link is on my website.
Excellent.
I use it a lot.
And your website is what?
thecomplainingcow.co.uk.
Thank you very much for keeping us company this evening and talking us through it, Helen. Appreciate it. Helen Dewdney, who is the Complaining Cow, and that's her website and blog. And that's us out for another week. Rod Shark standing by with some baseball for you next and some beards on Up All Night.